Yo, what is up, you absolute badasses? Thank you very much for being here today and watching this video. Today's Friday, June 7th. Tomorrow's my birthday and I can't friggin' wait. But anyway, today I've got a video that it's gonna be a long one. Strap yourselves in, but please stick through till the end. There's a lot of ideas that that I present. And if you guys have been here before, I'm sure that you guys know I do tend to go super long in my videos anyway. And you guys definitely know that if you've been here. If you are new and you do like this video or my ideas, whatever, please hit the like button and the subscribe button. They really help me out. And then let me know in the comments section what your ideas about the game are in its current state, what you would like to see fixed, what you think about my ideas. And like what you would really like to see done to get this game to the next level. JohnnyBoom and I on Twitch have a community-focused channel called the Division Debrief that we try to do. It's like an interactive talk show with chat, and that's all we do is we just talk about the Division. So any of your comments, ideas, suggestions here, we will discuss those and bring them up, not on Saturday's episode, not this weekend's episode, but the following weekend's episode. I promise we will address everything that you guys bring up here. Links to that channel and my own personal Twitch channel are both down below. So join us over there because you can find me there 4 to 6 nights a week. Anytime I'm on, I live for these discussions. So come on in. Let's talk about the Division. I'm super passionate about this game. I love this game. I want it to do better because let's face it, as much fun as I'm having in the game right now, there is a lot that could definitely be fixed. Also, quick suggestion from my girlfriend: if you feel I talk a little bit too slow, as she does, turn on. She watches me at I think 1.5 or 1.25 times speed, and she says I talk much faster, and it works out better for her. So if you think I droll on a little bit too long, definitely do that. I will try to add timestamps in the comment section below to skip to certain sections. The reason this video has taken me so long to get out is because honestly, there's just a lot. This video in particular is going to deal with gear sets, RNG, crafting, recalibration, and then I touch on weapons a little bit, right? So that's a lot to take in because there's a lot that's good about those things, but there's also a lot that's wrong with those things, and everything that's kind of wrong or everything that needs to be fixed with those things is completely interconnected with each other, right? You can't fix gear sets without fixing the gear. You can't fix either of those without touching on the RNG. Crafting and recalibration can't be touched or fixed without doing all of those other things. So it just turns into this web of trying to figure out a way to really address it. So the way I finally decided on was I've got, gear is our first section. When we get there, we're going to talk about that. And then I've got the good, what's good about it, what's bad about it, and how I think we can fix it. Some of them still bounce around. There's still some interconnectedness with those ideas and everything else. But yeah. That's what that's all about. Also, please stick through to the crafting section at least, because in my opinion, it's the best idea I've ever had for this game, and I would other than my MMO discussion that we had about this game embracing the MMO roles for combat, including like aggro dump and aggro grab. If you want to see that video, the link is in the description down below. Definitely check it out. I think that idea was great, but my Frankenstein crafting idea, I think, is freaking fantastic. And I think this game would be made so much better with something like that, because I love focus grinds. That would give it a focus grind for weapons in particular, but it would be even awesome if we could do that for crafting too. But we'll get on with that, or for gear too, but we'll get on with that later on. So starting off with gear, you know what? While I do this, hold on one quick sec. We're going to get some gameplay up for you so that you guys have something to watch this time instead of just my mug looking back and forth. You still have that here if you want. But yeah, at least this way too, you guys have some gameplay. This is from a raid run that we did. We got to Razorback, didn't beat it, so that's there in the background. You can see some purely spectacularly mediocre gameplay there. But okay, so first section, gear. Honestly, the good thing about the gear, man, there's a lot of it, dude. There's a lot of different gear sets, brand sets. well, we're focused more on brand sets right now, but there's a ton of different brand sets. And I remember when I was playing the beta for this game, I thought that that was going to be an amazing aspect of this game that was just going to lead to amazing build diversity because of all the different bonuses that you get, the 1, 2, and 3-piece bonuses. I thought the build diversity in this game was going to be the best that we've ever seen in a looter shooter. Unfortunately, once the game launched and we started seeing the true limitations to that gear, that did not turn out to be the case. But you do have a massive selection of pieces. There's what, 10, 12 brand sets, maybe not that many, but then each one has like 1, 2, and 3-piece bonuses. Those all can interconnect, but there's definitely some negatives, so we'll get to that. But yeah, a lot of the brand sets, they're really, really useful. They've got a lot of cool abilities. Some of them not so much, but there's some that even have 3-piece bonuses that aren't the greatest, or I'm sorry, that are really cool, even though they have 2-piece bonuses that aren't the greatest, but you know, you want to get to that. So that's really, really cool. And I thought that it was going to be able to make some really, truly exciting and amazing builds. But that's where we get to the bad as far as gear goes, right? Because there's almost too much, especially when you get into how many crappy rolls that we get. A lot of that's going to be covered in the RNG section down below. But honestly, like, there's so many gear set pieces, or I'm sorry, brand set pieces just by themselves, that then, let's say a piece of gear drops, right? You random roll, whether it's going to be a weapon, a gear, a piece of gear, or, you know, if you're in a Black Tusk mission, a gear set, or, you know, a mod, right? So there's 4 levels of RNG as soon as a piece drops. Boom. Then let's say you're looking for a particular piece of you know, brand set, right? You're looking for a Petrov backpack, right? Now you have a 1 in whatever chance of just it having, of just a backpack falling, which would be okay in and of itself. However, due to the restrictions on the gear, and the way that the gear pieces, the gear sets themselves can roll, but also the restrictions on the individual pieces, it just turns into this mishmash of absolute bleh. You know, for instance, there's 4 different versions of a Petrov backpack. I think Gilligard, or yeah, Gilligard. I'm calling it Gilligard. I'm a GIF guy, so we're just gonna call it Gilligard. But you know, there's multiple versions of those. Some versions can roll with 2 active or 2 passive talents. Some can only roll with a passive and an active. Some don't roll with any talents. And it's insane to try to figure out what you need and what you can get. And then there's restrictions as far as Petrov doesn't roll on in every slot, right? There's no Petrov mask. There's a backpack, there's a holster and chest piece, but that's it. So like, once you start figuring out all of these different restrictions that they've put in place, it really, really absolutely destroys a lot of build diversity possibility that we could have in this game. So the restrictions on slot availability combined with the attributes and talents that seem to be skewed towards a particular play style depending on which brand set, right? Gilligard seems to get rolled with a lot of defense attributes, and not so much with skill, and every now and then, like, you definitely get some with the red abilities, but not the way that you get defensive talents and attributes on Gilligard. Petrov, almost every single, I've never seen a Petrov backpack with 2 or with 3 defense talents, right? So it's really difficult to work Petrov in with a what's the set I'm thinking of that's got the it doesn't matter. Anyway, Unbreakable. It's really hard sometimes to work in specific pieces with specific talents that you, or builds that you want to do based around a talent, because of the restrictions that are on all of these different sets of pieces. In fact, I'm running right now on the build that you see right here. My chest piece, I believe, is an Overlord chest piece because it's the best one I had, and that's it. I'm not using a rifle, so I'm actually losing, I'm losing some ability out of this build just because of those limitations, but yet I haven't been able to find any chest piece that rolls that same way. So there's that. And then also on the gear, until skill power and the skills themselves are fixed, there's just some talents that are completely useless. So, you know, when they drop on a piece of gear, it's just kind of an almost immediate junk roll. I do believe junk needs to be in the game. This will be something I say multiple times. There needs to be junk loot. There always does in every game, just because you can't have every drop be awesome, right? You need to have some stuff that's just trash that you sell or that you break down for crafting components or whatever. But the amount of junk loot in this game, I would go as far as to say it's probably 200 or 300 to 1 the amount of pieces that are just absolute junk trash loot and what's actually useful or good. Once you get into like the truly end game and you're really min-maxing your build, it's even way worse. So honestly, my ideas on how to fix that is lessen the number of drops from enemies overall. Keep loot plentiful, but not ridiculous in the way it is now. But I also think that this should be kind of tiered. I get into this a little bit later with RNG. But ideally, the system I would have in mind is that if you are in the raid or you are in higher difficulty content, you would get fewer drops, but the rolls on those drops would be from a higher table, so you'd have a better chance of getting truly top-end gear from those, even though you're getting fewer actual pieces. Whereas if you're doing lower difficulty content, right, normal, story, you know, or hard mode, then you're still getting those super plentiful drops, and so then you can still get a build put together, and you don't feel like you're getting cheated. So yeah, there's that. And then also another idea is I think higher difficulty content always has to drop higher rolled gear, right? That's what I was just saying. Excuse me, either in gear score or in the numbers on the pieces themselves. They've done a lot to make sure that we are getting a lot of 500 pieces now in the raid and in heroic missions and in heroic difficulty content. You're guaranteed now, and even in the dark zones, once you're 500, contaminated drops are definitely 500. But the problem is, and this is another issue with the gear, the problem with that is that a lot of times a 500 piece that rolls 500 actually has lower stats than something that rolls 492 or 490. And that just should not happen. So, you know, my step 2 on all of this is to tighten up those percentages and numbers. I'm gonna toss up a nope, that's not it, hold on. I'm gonna toss up, there we go. These are the current percentages that that can roll in the game. Thank you, the Foxhound, for finding this for me. And they're just absurd, right? I could have a 500 piece backpack that rolls with like a 2% weapon damage. Why? Like, because I can get a 494 piece that rolls with a 6% weapon damage. I've got a purple, I think it's 492 or 489 that has like an 8% on a backpack. Like, these numbers are just absolutely ridiculous. And there's no reason that the different tiered gears should overlap that much. I'm sorry. I truly believe that outside of absolutely super rare situations, a high end should always roll higher than a purple. Always. A level 29 should always roll higher than a level 28. Once we start getting into the actual gear score, it's a little bit harder to do that, and I understand that. You can't have excuse me, you can't have every 500 piece roll higher than every 499 piece. You just can't. Because that also eliminates some of the junk rolls, and it's just going to add in more issues. But I think once you get into like the world tiers, right? A world tier 2 piece should always drop higher than a world tier 1 piece. I think once you get into that world tier 5, then you can start breaking it down by maybe every 5 levels, right? So that like a 500 piece might have a lower stat rolls than a 496, but that 496 is always going to be higher than a 495, right? So that way there's those different tiers that you can get into. I think that would really help. So that overlap there. I also think that the overlap of like weapon damage and stuff like that, it all needs to go away. These stat ranges, I get into that later, but the stat ranges are just too damn wide overall. But tightening up those numbers and percentages, the high end rolls, they need to have that same high end that they've got now. For example, LMG damage can roll on gloves for 12%. Like that needs to be there, but allow the low rolls like 0.05 or 0.01 or 0.02, whatever it is, to start rolling on lower end gear and then build up to the higher number so that way once you're at World Tier 5 and your gear score 500, maybe the lowest that you see is +8. Or something like that, so that way it's still good, but you've got a really good chance of getting something else, right? So if you tighten up those percentages, maybe it's a 50% chance at that point of only getting an 8%, and it's only a 5% chance of getting a 12%, but at least the lowest you're going to get is 8, and so that way once you reach the end game, a lot of the loot that you get could be used to increase and make the gear that you already have better. And I get into recalibration stuff a little bit later, so that's definitely, it helps a lot there too. Also, remove the set restrictions. Just the brand set restrictions need to go away. And I think you can do this or that they can do this in one of two ways, right? They can either allow every brand set to roll in every slot, right? Have Petrov in all 6 slots, so that way I can pick and choose which pieces I need to fit the build I'm trying to build, or allow each piece to still be limited in the slots they are, but open up the roll possibilities so that anything can roll on it, right? That may cause more of the issue that we're talking about now, because it may actually increase the RNG and make the RNG even worse. So honestly, I would rather just see every piece. If they're going to have the restrictions that they have now, I would rather see every piece available in every slot, honestly. But I think if the RNG is going to stay just as crazy as it is right now, I think allowing completely random rolls on absolutely everything would also kind of alleviate some of that. As of now, like I mentioned earlier, right, Gillo seems to always roll defensive. Overlord seems to always roll more offensive. That stuff needs to end, or all of those pieces need to be in all of the slots. So there's that. And I think these changes combined would all make the loot drops more meaningful and reward those that play high difficulty level content while still keeping loot drop numbers relatively high, so that the people that play lower end difficulty would be able to keep up. They'd still be able to make builds. The hardcore players would get the better gear as they're focusing towards their goals, right, of min-maxing their builds, and the players that have less of a time investment, I shouldn't say time investment, just the ones that don't have the ability to play as much or as often, or they're really passionate about the game, but they work 15 jobs or whatever, can still get in there, get some loot, get builds, and be able to still feel like they're participating and that their time is rewarded. So yeah, that's gear. Gear sets. Good God, this really is going to be a long one. I'm sorry. Gear sets. The good. They seem to have some pretty cool, unique ideas with some interesting effects. I can tell that a lot of work really did go into making them, into trying to make them unique and cool. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot of good to say about the gear sets past that. I do think some of the individual abilities in them are pretty cool. The Aces and 8 set is pretty nifty. I like the idea behind True Patriot. And True Patriot can be somewhat useful. Even like the One Directive set, or One Direction set, as I like to call it, seems like it would have some kind of, use and that it would be cool. And I don't know if it's just because skills are bad or whatever, but the gear sets are just, that one in particular is just bad. It's useless. There's no reason to run them. And especially once you get into the raid. But I know that balancing is something that they're talking about and working on now anyway. So that's something different. But honestly, because they're 6-piece bonuses, they limit your build potential and they limit your overall build ability just massively, right? You cannot be creative while you're putting together one of these builds, right? You just can't. So they limit the playstyle far too much. They don't even come close to competing with brand set builds, right? Brand set builds are far superior, and it's not even close. you know, and then the lack of talents on them, because these pieces don't roll with talents, make them slide even further down the scale of diversity, so that it's just completely absent with these things. So, you know, every True Patriot build is about the same as every other True Patriot build. You know, one might have a little bit more crit, one might just have more weapon damage or whatever, but ultimately they're all pretty much the exact same. And like the playstyle is the exact same on everything, right? And that's kind of boring. Just overall, it's boring to build, it's boring to play. My fixes for this would be to change all of them to 4-piece bonuses only. Honestly, six piece builds we learned in the Division 1 with classified sets completely destroyed build diversity. I don't know why they went back to 6-piece builds in this, but they decided that they thought it was a good idea. They make, you know, way more money than I do designing video games. So yeah, I don't know why they did it, but my number one suggestion for gear sets is to reduce them to 4-piece bonuses. Give a bonus for 1 piece, a bonus for 2 pieces, a bonus for 3 pieces, a bonus for 4 piece. That's it, right? And then that way players can still mix in high-end pieces. Then if that's combined with the other builds that I made for the brand sets, then, you know, you could really get some truly cool build ideas going. You know, I think, yeah, the other idea that you could do, sorry, I lost my train of thought. I had to refer to my notes. The other idea that you can do is add talents to these pieces. If you're not going to reduce them to 4 pieces, this is an absolute must. These must have talents, because without the talents, they just don't come anywhere near to competing with what a brand set build can do. So bottom line, they need to have talents added. If you break it down to 4 pieces, like 4-piece gear sets, then cool. I could see only adding maybe 1 talent per each one, or 1 mod. I would prefer talents to mods, but that would at least be some middle ground. My next suggestion on how to fix it is, honestly, and I can't really believe I'm going to suggest this with as much as I've bitched and complained about Destiny 2 bringing back so many things from Destiny 1. But honestly, bring back some of the Division 1 sets. There's no reason they're not in this game, right? It's not like we're in a different world. We are in Washington, D.C. as opposed to New York, but we still have Shade Tech. Like, how come the agents in New York could have Sentry, but we can't here? Like, those brands, some of those gear sets were really, really cool. I think in this... in the Division 2 game, the way it is now, I think some of those brand sets would be super, super cool. They were super unique, you know, and they were just a lot of fun, right? None of the sets in the game right now come anywhere near Sentry, Striker, Predmark, Tactician, Reclaimer, D3. Like, all of those were unique. They were fun. You could build them in different ways before classifieds. I'm just talking about the 4 pieces. You know, you could build them more tanky, or you could build them for an assault rifle or for an LMG. Like, well, not really, because assault rifles were the only good gun for the most part, but at different times throughout the Division 1 cycle, you could build them for different things. And I think in the Division 2, the way that the brand sets are set up, you could do that now. I would love to see some of those come back, or at least the gear sets that we have now reduced to 4. And that would definitely help. Yeah, I'm checking my notes again to make sure that I caught everything in there. Yeah, and I think that's it. The other thing I would do for gear sets, as of right now, and I get into this later with recalibration, and I think the brand sets should also be able to recalibrate it more. But even if brand sets can't be recalibrated more, if they're not going to do anything with that, gear sets definitely need to have at more than 1 recalibration, so that you can truly piece together the piece that you want to have. Oops. Good God, man. I can't do anything right today. I didn't realize that was up for that whole time. Sorry about that. Anyway, I hope you guys got a good look at that chart. Now you can copy it all down. But yeah, so that's that. And that also kind of gets into the idea I had later, and that is truly where it sparked the idea for my Frankenstein crafting idea that I'll get into in the crafting section. So stick with me. I know this is going long, but we knew it was going to be long in the beginning. So RNG, we've already talked a lot about RNG, but oh my God, does it need to be reduced? It is It's fucking awful. The good thing about that is the way that they set up the system, man. You get a shit ton of drops, man. You got a lot of gear that you can go through, but man, the bad is literally everything else. Too many drops. It's creating stash space issues. I've literally logged in and only spent an hour and a half just going through 250 pieces of loot and, you know, what, 200, well, 100, 150-ish mods just to see, you know, what I've got that's decent, you know, and then you never know because of the limitations of the brand sets and recalibration. You never know if this one piece that has a decently high health roll is going to be good for something else, or this is too, you know, I've got a good health roll and a good armor roll, but then this other roll is shitty. It's seriously bad. The pure scale and number of the possible drops in this game, it's literally staggering. I'm going to bring up the thing now that I've hit the button for multiple times. But if you start to go into this, let's say a backpack drops, right? And it's a 511 gear piece, right? And then you come into here, and by the way, this is on divisionbuilder.com. I don't know who set that up, but fucking thank you, thumbs up, everybody go. The link's gonna be down below just because, like, seriously, this site is fucking awesome for this. But look at this. Why do we have 6 different kinds of fucking 511 backpacks? Like, we don't need this. And I know some of this in the title update 4 is going to be changed, right? Because they're going to they're going to change this, like, offense, just the offense mod is just going to go in the offensive system, right? You don't need any of these system mods anymore. But look, talent slot 1 can be passive or active, right? The rest of these can all have passives. Just make one, you know, you can have the 6 pieces as cosmetic, but have all of them be able to roll all of them with just the mod slot being random and the attributes being random. There is no reason. This right here adds a layer to the RNG that blows things out of friggin' proportion. Because not only that, but then when you get into each of the active talent, you know, each of the active passive talents, and then you get into the next one, like the RNG, it's seriously staggering. I think Marco Style did a video, and in that video, he said that the one backpack he needs, he would have to loot 2, it's like a 1 in 245,000 chance or something for him to get the one backpack he needs. And that is ridiculous. I did the math just for the weekly project to try to get an unwavering build or an unwavering SMG because it took me a week and a half to get one. That's 1 in 300, I think it was 342 drops. It was a 1 in 342 chance to get an unwavering throwaway submachine gun. I did a video about that. I'll link that down below too. It's absolutely ridiculous. So, like, the RNG is just friggin' stupid. So I think a good fix for the RNG issues in this game, honestly, I already kind of talked about what I think needs to happen with the number of drops, as well as like the numbers on each of those pieces and removing the restrictions from the brand sets. Because if you remove the differences between these, you know, 6 variants of this, and, you know, let's look, what's another one? Gilligard. We've got 2 different Gilligard masks. What's the difference between them? Like, why? Like, I understand it's cosmetic, but does this add to the RNG? Like, it's just, do these have like different restrictions on that level? Like, man, it's just, man. Anyway, yeah, you'd eliminate an entire level of RNG. That would increase your chance at a good roll exponentially, because like in that 511, that removes what, 6 different chances for having 6 different backpacks, and then like if all of the rolls are available, bam, there you go. Where am I at? Right, so yeah, the different variants would be cosmetics, and then actually, honestly, this gets into something else that we could talk about. The devs could then add like a transmogrify type situation thing, like maybe a machine or something like that, where if you get a really good 511 backpack and you want it, it looks awesome, but you don't think it looks awesome, you can take that and put it on a Gilligard backpack that's absolute garbage, but it looks really fucking cool, right? And then that would be cool. Maybe that's for some kind of grindable resource. Anyway, that's another thing. But at least I'll get into that a little bit more of crafting recalibration. And I'll reiterate that skewing fewer but better rolls toward top difficulty activities, while still allowing those top rolls to be possible at lower difficulties, because you don't want the higher difficulty stuff to be the only place where you can get plus 12 gloves, right? That's just stupid. But leave them in more frequent drops at the bottom, so that way all types of players can be invested. You know, currently the super hardcore players know that they have very little chance to get that one piece that they need, like in Marco's example. Those people just aren't playing the game anymore. There's no reason for them to, right? They're never going to get that piece. And there's no other reason to play other than to like grind gear and make sets. And build diversity is so terrible right now. There's no new way to play, right? There's no exciting or fun way. But then it will also, so they know that they can't get the chance to perfect their build. But then those with less time to invest constantly feel like their time's wasted because they're getting so much loot, but it's all trash, right? So both of those types of players feel hopeless and they just disengage, right? Because it's the RNG is too goddamn much. If anything in this video gets to mass, please do that. And the Frankenstein idea later. Really, I'm going to push that. I think it's awesome. But that's that. Moving on to crafting and recalibration. Crafting, the good. They've got blueprints through like activities, right? So you get the blueprints while you're doing like tier 3s, tier 4s, weekly projects, daily project, whatever. Like you get those blueprints. That's pretty cool, right? Maybe. Yeah, honestly, I couldn't think of too much nice to say about the crafting in this game. I will say I love the mod. The weapon mod system, I absolutely love. I think they should have kept the negatives in, but I know I'm in the minority on that, so whatever. I'll stay on that limb until it breaks. I like the balance, pluses and minuses of the old system, but whatever. This is a system we got. I love it as it is. I think some of those blueprints are a little too stupidly difficult to get, and having them completely RNG is frustrating as hell. I have done my dailies and weeklies every day and week since the raid launched almost 3 weeks ago. And I still have not gotten my belt pouch for my LMG. It's ridiculous. What is going on with my monitors, guys? There we go. I hit the right button that time. Yay. This isn't even live, but there we go. So I think there's too much RNG. I wish we could focus that in a little bit more somehow, but man. Honestly, I think that the biggest fix that needs to happen with crafting is that I think crafted pieces need to be able to be recalibrated once. For one roll, right? Craft a piece. If you want to change a talent or you want to change an attribute, go for it, right? I think crafted pieces need to be. So that way, if you're really searching for a petrol backpack that you really need to finish off your LMG build, you can craft a petrol backpack. You can craft 50 of them. Hopefully one of them is decent enough where you can only replace, you can only put in, you only have to recal one thing, and that makes it kind of decent. Because honestly, with the ranges of damage on weapon, like crafted weapons, the ranges of armor, and then all of the other values associated with the RNG, crafting in this game is horrendously useless. Like it's beyond useless. There's literally no reason to craft anything. No, I take that back. There's one reason. There's daily and weekly things that sometimes need the prototype weapons or armor. Or if you need a piece of Murakami for a weekly project, you can craft it and then turn those in. I actually haven't tried that because there's always one on the vendor I buy. But sometimes they ask you to give prototype weapons. That's about the only thing. But yeah, the ridiculous level range also at crafting needs to be reduced, man. When you're World Tier 500, there's no reason that range of crafting should be as far as it is. Like, it's dumb. Even 490 to 500 is stupid. It should be 495, 500, leave a little bit of range. There's already so much RNG in that even if we implement my system that I had talked about earlier with reducing some of those ranges, then a world tier, or then a level 500, level 496 to 500, all going to be just about the same. It's not that big of an impact. It needs to happen. It's absolutely, crafting right now is beyond useless. So yeah, return more materials for useless pieces, because let's face it, 99% of them are fucking useless. And when you do it to get, like, I don't know, 5 receiver parts back, it's just dumb, especially when you consider how many it takes. It's like 35 of one, 35 of another, 35 or 55 of another, and then you get back like 15 and 2 or something. It's stupid. So return more of those so that way we can actually try to engage in the crafting a little bit more. And here's where we get to it, guys. My idea. I love this idea. I love this idea so much. Allow us to build a Frankenstein, a truly Frankenstein weapon or gear piece using multiple pieces of junk loot and maybe SHD tech or some other new resource type that we've got to grind to ensure that it's a rare thing, but man, would it be super rewarding. I don't know how you do it, right? Let's say you want to do an M249 Bravo, or let's just say an M60 because it rolls off the tongue, right? Maybe you need to junk out 10 M60s because there's like an M60 frame, right, that you can get. And I don't want this tied to RNG, or if it is tied to RNG, I want it to have diminishing returns or whatever it's called, so that like, let's say you break down the first one, you don't get it, right? Let's say it starts on 1% chance to get it, right? Eventually it goes up by 1 every single time, and eventually if you break down 100 M60s, you will finally get that frame. Then after you have that frame, you add whatever that resource is to it, right? And then you take guns that have, let's say, weapon damage, right? Or not weapon damage, right? Because the weapon damage, that's the same. It would just basically be talents. But the weapon damage, let's say you've got an M60 that hits for 30K, right? You break that down, you get to choose if you want a talent piece from that or a weapon piece from that, or the damage piece from that. And let's say that damage piece is what you want. So you select that. Let's say it did 30K. So reduce that by about 10-15%, right? Because literally you're crafting an entire gun. It should not be able to be crafted to be the absolute best god roll that you can possibly get. So the damage then goes from, let's say it's 10% for easy math. Let's say it starts at 30,000 damage. Now it's 27,000 damage. Still pretty damn badass. So you add that to that weapon. Now you get a gun that has, let's say, unhinged, right? And you want to put unhinged on this thing. So let's say every gun that you break down with unhinged, you can then choose whether you want that damage or the talent component, right? So you get an unhinged component. Maybe you need 10 of those to then put into this gun to have that. And this would be a project that might take you a month, but you would have the SHD to grind for, you would have the weapons themselves to grind for, and you could truly build a gun over the course of days, weeks, months, however long it is, that you can call your own. And fuck it, man, add the coup de grace to this idea. You get to name that weapon whatever you want. Shout out right now, by the way, to the massive devs, because it just hit me, for doing all of the cool shit that they do in game, to the community members of this game that have stuck with it forever, like the gun being called the shield splinterer for Splinter's shield, the hunter himself, you know, the plaque with the Ubisoft All-Star players on it, you know, the stuff that they did in the White House for the world's first people, man, that stuff is awesome. Please keep doing that. Oh, man, it's so cool. Anyway, okay, I'm going to get off of that one because now somebody will probably comment about me wanting, you know, whatever. Like wanting to, like, I don't know, suck them off or something. It's not that. It's just I want to give credit where credit's due, because I'm literally taking, what, like an hour, however long this video is going to be, to trash on a lot of this fucking work. But I understand the work's been done. I love this game. I still play it. But there does need to be a lot fixed with it. And honestly, I just think that's super, super awesome, and I keep forgetting to do it. So I wanted to say that now. Moving on to recalibration now. The good, mostly everything. I really like the way that the recalibration system mostly works. I think it could be better. I do think that crafted pieces need to have at least one recalibration roll. I think looted items should be able to be re-rolled twice. You know, crafted pieces should work exactly the way that recal works right now, right? You get to reroll a talent, you get to reroll an attribute. One of the two, do it. You can reroll that one as many times as you want, you know, with it costing more each time. But yeah, I think looted gear should be able to be rolled twice. With RNG what it is, and what it even still would be with my proposed changes, this is honestly desperately needed. It's kind of shit that it's not in there now. Kind of like my gameplay against Buddy and Lucy here is absolute shit. I think I spent half of this fight on my back or on my hands and knees looking for my contacts. It's just an absolute joke. My character, he just couldn't keep out the Seeker Mines from Buddy just kept coming, and the shock from it kept knocking my character's contacts out. You'll see him here, constantly looking for him. Yeah, that time he just decided he was over it. He didn't want to search for him anymore. But yeah, so there's that. I think it would be cool if you could reroll any 2 items, right? 2 talents or 2 attributes. But I would also understand, and I'd be totally cool if they limited it to 1 attribute and 1 talent. But on that note, I personally think that you should be able to roll reds to golds or blues to reds if you want. It shouldn't have to be blue to blue, red to red, gold to gold. Like, there's been so many pieces that are one thing away, and that one thing happens to be a firearms or a red roll. So I can't run that piece with trying to run a compensated build because I can't have more than 3 reds, and it's irritating as shit that I can't take those off in any way and make that piece usable. Because that piece, I've had a couple of pieces like that where they are almost perfect. They're that one stat away from being absolutely perfect, and instead they're completely trash because I can't use them. So yeah, and I don't think we should get into 3 or 4 recal rolls because then it gets too close to my proposed Frankenstein idea. And I think the Frankenstein build idea seriously is fantastic. I think it's a great idea, and I'm so happy with myself for coming up with it while I was trying to figure out how to lay out this entire video. So the last section that we're going to get into here is weapons. You know, honestly, I'm not going to get into it too much. Mostly, I think the guns feel pretty good. There's definitely some that need balance, or there's definitely some that need fixing. There's definitely balancing that needs to be done. You know, rifles still aren't great in PvE. Shotguns are kind of useless. Pistols are only good for their holster talent. You know, I know that there's that holster coming out in Title Update 4 that might fix some of that, but you know, yeah, for the most part, they're bad. Are useless. ARs are really good. LMGs feel really good. SMGs are usable if you need to. There's definitely things you can do with them. But honestly, I would love to see my Frankenstein idea be used in crafting weapons. I just think that would be awesome. It'd even be cool if you could only do that with crafted weapons. Maybe you can't even use looted weapons for those, and you have to craft, right? You craft 10 M60s to get that frame. You craft more LMGs to be able to get the damage piece, right? For the damage score on it, whatever. Like, oh man, that would be so cool. I really, really wish that. But those, I would love to definitely see all the changes I said about gear with overlapping numbers and the gear score being utilized here too. There's so many roles that are just that you just can't tell what's good, what's bad. Like, should you keep this one or not? Because like this is a 500, but like it's damage. Like, yeah, another thing while we're on weapons, like this is something that I hope they can add. I think it would be a relatively easy thing, but can we get a base damage stat somewhere on the weapon thing, right? Like when you look at the weapon, you've got the box that shows like your talents and all that. Can we get a spot on there that says base damage showing raw unmodified damage of that gun without any talents, firearms, attributes, gear pieces, gear set bonuses, anything at all affecting it, right? Because it feels impossible sometimes to figure out which weapon is better than one that you just pick up with all the variables that can be in place. And, you know, honestly, most of us just don't have the time or inclination to pick up a calculator and a spreadsheet to figure out which gun is going to do the better damage, especially when a lot of times we don't know what bonuses are affecting that damage score. Like, I honestly, my M60 that I was using, if I equipped if I just equipped another weapon, that M60 would be like 27,000 damage. As soon as I equip it, boom, that damage of that gun then jumps up to 30,000. Okay. And then, you know, if I swap it with another weapon, that weapon stays 30,000, then I put it back on and it's something else. Like, I don't know if that's a bug or a UI bug or what, but please give us a base damage roll so that when I pick up another LMG, I know immediately, does this one do better damage or more damage base, without unhinged, without anything else, you know, and that would actually allow me to then compare, without having to get out a calculator and all that other stuff, is this gun with unhinged going to do better than this gun with optimized or whatever other talents you want to compare? Comparing the base gun damage itself would be absolutely valuable. So that's it. That's the video. We finally got to the end. I'm sorry. I've said probably 350 ums in this. I've taken a sip. I've coughed. Sorry. I'll try to edit some of that stuff out in post if I can. But honestly, this video has already taken me 2 weeks to make because I've written it and rewritten it so many different times. And I just couldn't find a good format. And this one, I still was all over the place. So if you stuck through it all, thank you very much for doing so. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen to my wild-brained ideas. If you liked any of them, let me know which ones you did. If you didn't like any of them, let me know which ones you didn't. If you think I'm an idiot, let me know in the comments down below. If you think I'm the most genius motherfucker on the planet for the Frankenstein idea, please let me know in the comments down below. Or like I said, come over to twitch.tv/IamJanko sometime when I'm live, hang out, chill. Let's talk about this stuff. As you guys can tell, I can talk about this shit all night long, and I've done it before. A quick message. This video is going live Friday morning, June 7th, Friday night, 8 p.m. I will be streaming the Division on Twitch, and at midnight, we're going to do some other stuff for my birthday. May stay in the Division, may play some marbles, but we're going to have a little bit of a birthday bash. So if you guys want to, come on by Twitch, hang out with me for my birthday. It's pretty cool. And then I get to go see Dark Phoenix. I know a lot of people said it sucked. Don't care. Can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. So until next time, either next video, by the way, which will probably be out next week, it's going to be on skills and everything else that I didn't touch on in this one. So thank you guys very, very much for being here. I appreciate it. Yeah, man, as always, keep on living the dream. I love you guys. You guys rock. I already said keep on living the dream, but fuck it, man, you can't say it too many more times. So keep on living the dream. I'll see you guys later.